Hi everyone, and welcome once again to Ruby's Classic Cooking. And today I'm making a butterscotch filled coffee cake, which is a variation of the chocolate topped coffee cake that I did just last couple of weeks ago. Anyway, alright, well, let's just dive right into this recipe. It's quick, it's simple, it's easy. 9 servings of gorgeous, delicious dessert. I know this was always one of my family favorite coffee cakes. So let's just dive right into this recipe. First ingredient going in is 1/3 cup of shortening. Now, back in the day, shortening was cheaper than butter, so they used shortening in a lot of recipes. But nowadays, butter is almost the same price as shortening, so if you want to substitute butter, use 1/3 cup of butter or margarine in here. Go for it. And with my shortening, I'm going to combine a cup of sugar, white granulated sugar, which I think in the UK is called caster sugar. It's the fine grain, stuff like that. Fine sugar. So this is 1/2 cup, so 1/2 cup. And 1/2 cup and 1/2 cup equals 1 full cup of sugar. So as you can see, I've got 2 separate components in here, and now I'm going to take my wooden spoon. Today I'm just using my wooden spoon and my bowl scraper today. It's a very simple recipe. And so I'm just going to beat these together until my sugar and my shortening are combined. And that takes a little while, but when you're finished combining the 2 ingredients, it'll look like one thing in here. It won't look like 2 separate ingredients. So there won't be any loose sugar left in here. And there won't be any patches of shortening or butter left in here by themselves. They'll be combined equally together. Don't worry, metric people, when this recipe is published on YouTube, the recipe with all of the metric equivalents will be in the description box down below. Well, the full recipe in both metric and standard will be down below. As you make sure your shortening is at room temperature, because it will combine much more easily with your sugar if it is at room temperature. Okay? So there you go. That's finished. And now I will be adding an egg to my bowl. 1 grade A large egg. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I prefer to use real vanilla, not fake vanilla. And there's any number of recipes out there on YouTube for how to make your own vanilla at home. And that's what this is. It's a combination of vanilla beans and vodka, which I've let steep for 6 weeks. Anyway, so here's my egg and my vanilla in here. And I'll just stir these together. These eggs, for some reason, have really nice dark yellow yolks, which is really nice. Sometimes they'll have paler yolks, but that doesn't make any difference to your recipe. But this will make my batter nice and yellow. Now it says to beat this until light and fluffy. Now you can use a handheld mixer, electric mixer, wooden spoon, handheld electric mixer, or you can break out your stand mixer if you want to. Just so quick and easy to do that I'm not going to bother with those. Do a little arm exercise this way. And there you go. You bowl a little scrape here and make sure everything's all combined evenly. And now, coming up next, is my flour component. Right in here I have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. That's Canadian all-purpose flour. In the UK or in the United States, that would be considered strong or bread flour. Okay? Strong flour, bread flour. Next I'm going to be adding 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Baking powder, not baking soda. Okay? So 2 teaspoons. And you want level teaspoons. 1, 2. And it's important to be accurate with this one because it will affect the leavening of your cake. Okay? And 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which I'm just gonna eyeball that with my 1 teaspoon. Just use a half a teaspoon measuring spoon, but I've been doing this for so many years, I'm just going to eyeball it. Be lazy today. Now, what I want to do is stir these components together. It says to blend, or it says sift them, but blend or sift, right? Who owns a flour sifter today? If you have a flour sifter, feel free to use it. But I'm just going to stir these together. There we go. Okay? So now it just looks like flour, but all of my other components are stirred in there. Okay? So now you want to make, into your main batter here, you want to add 3 dry and 2 liquid additions to your batter. Okay? What that means is you take your flour. So I'm just going to roughly eyeball 1/3 of this in here. And if I'm wrong, it's not a big disaster because eventually all of this is going to go in here. I just want to kind of break it up. And I'm going to stir the flour into here. Just stir until you don't have any flour any visible flour showing, okay? There you go. Now I'm going to add a half of my cup of milk, which is a half a cup of milk, because I'm making 2 liquid additions. So stir that in. Because this is a butterscotch toffee version, I'm also going to be adding something to the batter that I wouldn't otherwise be adding, which is a bunch of toffee butterscotch chips. You can opt to melt them and cool them off and add them in, but today I think they're just going to melt in the oven, so I'm just going to put them directly into my batter, and they'll be stirred evenly through my batter, and every piece of cake will have the same amount of butterscotch in it. Yum. I'm just adding another third of my flour mixture here. And now I'm going to add the rest of my milk. Today I'm using 2% milk in my batter. I often use 3.5% milk, which we call homogenized milk in Canada, but or homo for short. It doesn't have any sexual connotations to those out there. If you who are concerned about that, it just means that it's going short for homogenized, calling it homo milk. And now I'm going to add in the other third of my flour, the rest of my flour out of my bowl. Alright, now once I've stirred this in, my batter will be complete. If I was making the basic recipe for this coffee cake, this would be my batter. But I'm making butterscotch today, butterscotch version. There are over 15 versions to this recipe. You take this basic recipe and do some tweaks to it and come up with something completely different every time. So I'm just going to scrape off my spoon, make sure my batter is completely mixed evenly. Make sure there's no parts of it that haven't been combined evenly. A little extra stir here. Okay, there's my finished batter. And to this, I'm going to add a cup of butterscotch chips, or actually these are skor chips, but toffee chips. So this is going to actually be a toffee version. So I'm just going to stir these through here. And then I'm going to put this in my prepared pan. It says to use a 8-inch square, which would be 20 centimeter square, cake pan, or this is a 8-inch, about an 8.5-inch pan. I prefer to use either an 8-inch or a 9-inch pan. You can use a Pyrex one, anything that's oven proof. This one's stoneware. Now if you're going to use a metal pan or you're going to use Pyrex, then you want to grease the pan first. Just a light coating of grease or oil, okay? Since it's stoneware, it doesn't have to be greased, so I'm just going to use it as is, which is one of the things I like about stoneware, is that I don't have to grease it. So I'm just going to put my batter, just going to pour my batter right in here into my prepared pan. I like to use a 9-inch pan, which is a 23 centimeter square pan, which I find makes just as nice a cake as an 8-inch square pan. An 8-inch pan will give you a little bit thicker cake. And of course your slices will be a little bit thicker and not as wide. And there's my cake batter all ready to go. But I'm not finished yet. I'm going to make a crumb topping now. So for my crumb topping, I need 3 tablespoons of melted butter. That's 45 milliliters. So I've got mine in his bowl here. And to that, I'm going to be adding 2 tablespoons or 30 milliliters of flour. So that's 1. And that's 2. And now I've added a teaspoon of cinnamon. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm just going to reuse the one I used in the baking soda, because why not? More or less level that off. Maybe a little bit more just for luck. These recipes tend to be a little bit conservative. These recipes tend to be a little bit conservative on adding spices. These were written in the late 60s, early 70s, when things were a little bit more, when people were a little bit more conservative about how they use spices, because they survived World War II. So anyway. And the only other thing I have to add is a ½ cup of brown sugar. I got a 1/4 cup here, so 1/4 cup plus 1/4 cup is ½ cup. So, and you know what brown sugar is, or yellow sugar? It's the stuff that packs up nicely. And there are all of my ingredients for my topping. And I'm just going to stir these in here together until it's something that looks kind of like wet sand. And if you don't happen to like cinnamon, you could also use nutmeg or something else that you might enjoy better. But brown sugar and cinnamon is a really classic kind of combination of flavors. Sometimes when I do this, it's very, very thick. Sometimes when I do it, it's a little thinner. But you know what? It always turns out really well on my cake, so I don't worry about it if it's the same consistency every time or not. It's ready to go into my preheated 350-degree oven for 45 to 50 minutes. And then it's ready to serve. No fooling around with icing or anything else. You just put it straight on your cake, straight on your plate. Let it cool off to room temperature, and you have a delicious dessert. And there's my cake ready to go in the oven. And I'll be back in 45 to 50 minutes to show you my fresh hot cake right out of the oven. Well, here's my coffee cake, fresh and hot out of the oven. I hope you enjoyed my video today, and I hope that you will like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and maybe give this recipe a try. And be sure and come back and see what I'm doing next time on Ruby's Classic Cooking. Bye for now.